Hello everyone, welcome to this video about soloing. And this video has kind of a clickbaity title. It's called Forget About Modes. But I'm serious about that. There's a whole culture on YouTube with guitar players showing you all kinds of exotic modes and videos with people explaining all the chords that you find in a certain mode. Sometimes it's 30 chords, and they show you fingerings for the 7 modes within the mode. You know, like the 7 fingerings. You can start on each note. If you're a mode player, you know what I'm talking about. And all the fingerings are kind of alike, but they're not, and it takes a long time to memorize them. And then they say, you know, and now go out and play a solo with those modes, with all the information you've got in those videos. And it will take you a couple of weeks, maybe months or even years to learn all those fingerings, to be proficient at them, to be able to play them with ease. And then somebody counts to 4 before a song, and then you're supposed to play a nice solo with all those modes. And the chances of you succeeding at that job is pretty much 0%. And the reason for that is that it just doesn't work. Modal playing works in a modal context. So when you are playing modal music, for instance, music with 1 chord or a few chords, or all the chords belong to a certain mode, and chromatics are not a big part of that music. But as soon as chromaticism is a part of the style you're playing, like jazz, then modal playing works against that. And it's also important to understand that the history of the tradition of jazz improvisation is not based on modal playing at all. And to prove that, or to exemplify that, let me tell you a little bit on how I learned to play guitar, because I never went to any institution to learn how to play guitar. I did go to learn how to play violin, but not guitar. The way I learned to play guitar was just spending lots of time with Stoffel Rosenberg when we were founding and are still continuing to run the Rosenberg Academy. And back then I didn't really play guitar. I played some chords and really bad rhythm. But by talking a lot with Stoffel, filming him, transcribing his solos, I discovered the way he learned how to play. Because Stoffel doesn't know any modes. Most gypsy guitar players I know don't know any modes. I mean, they don't even know the names of the notes. So let alone they would know the name of a mode. They also would not be able to play a mode if you would ask them or explain it to them. And definitely not with 7 different fingerings. But they can play a great solo when they have to play a song, which is in the end what you have to do when you play music, right? You have to play songs, and then you're supposed to play a great solo in time that sounds great, has a melodic quality to it and a harmonic quality to it. Of course, with great sound and timing. Well, I'm not talking about sound and timing. That is, of course, the most important thing. But I'll talk about it in another video. I'm now talking about the note choice. And so what is it that makes their solos so great? And it's the lines, right? All the lines Stoffel plays are great. You could stop the solo at any moment and transcribe the last 2 bars, and you would have a great line that you want to be able to play yourself. And you don't have to know any of the modal information contained in that line. You just have to know the sound of that line and the chord that it is played against, or the chord progression that it is played against. So instead of studying modes, study lines. And that is actually the way that most great jazz musicians have learned to play solos. They are studying lines, and for that you have to transcribe lines that you hear on recordings that you are attracted to, and has never been easier than now. In some sense, because you could also say it's never been more difficult than now, because there's so much information that you don't know where to search. In the old days, people had one recording, and that's all they could afford, and they lived with that recording for a year, learning all the lines on that album, because that's all they had access to. So if you are a modal player and think that studying modes will eventually lead you to be able to play a great solo on a jazz standard, I think you're taking the long way. It's better to study great lines. And then you say, well, but then I'm just repeating licks. And that's one way to say it. But in the end, that's not what you're doing. You are learning great lines that contain lots of great information in those lines. There are arpeggios in those lines. There are modes in those lines. There are scalar patterns. There is rhythm. There is dissonance. There's all kinds of musical stuff contained in those lines. And some lines will attract some people and other lines will attract other people. And in the end, you will have a selection of lines that is completely different from anyone else. And you'll start to combine those lines and alter them rhythmically, and in the end, those lines are your own. They sound like you. And a good example of that is when I was talking to Stochelo, and I asked him, what was your main influence? Of course, I knew it, but I thought maybe there were more influences besides Django Reinhardt. But of course, he said, no. When I was really young, I listened to Django Reinhardt. That was all we had at home, the recording, and I just wanted to play like him. I wanted to play those lines. And then later on, he discovered another guitar player called Paco Lucia. And he was very attracted to that sound. And he started learning some lines from Paco Lucia. And one of the lines he showed me was this line. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's D7 to G minor. Now, if you look at that line, you could say, well, that's A minor harmonic, or you're playing it on D. So then, if you look at that scale, or G minor harmonic, but you're playing from D. So then the scale is called D Phrygian dominant scale, and that's true. But if I would tell you just play a D Phrygian dominant scale on D7, maybe you play something like. Which is a great sound, but you have to agree that it has a completely different quality from. There's something really nice about this line that you'd probably not come up with, not even in a week playing the Phrygian dominant scale. You'd come up with other stuff, but you won't come up with this line, and this might be the nicest line you've ever heard in the Phrygian dominant scale. So why not learn this line? And you don't need to know the information of the modes. You don't need to know it's the Phrygian dominant scale. You don't need to know any of the chords that are in the Phrygian dominant scale. You only have to know this line and that you can play it on D7 going to G minor. So I just want to show you some lines I've been working on, I've recently transcribed, or that I know for a longer time, and just show you those lines, tell you a little bit where I got them from and why I like them. So the first line I selected for you is a line by Charlie Parker, and it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. And he placed it on I don't know which song it is, because it's been some time ago. Maybe Fine and Dandy. I think it was Fine and Dandy. But in any case, it's a 2-5-1 in C. In this case, because I wrote it down in C. But then instead of going to C, it goes to G minor, C7 to F. So it's like D minor, G7, and then it goes to. So this kind of progression is in lots of songs. For instance, it's in the song I was playing in the beginning, I Can Give You Anything But Love. At one point you have... There it is. So I can play it there. I can play it on G or on A minor, so here. Now I'm on D minor, right? And so the way I would learn this line is I would see it starts on the 5th of D minor, right? And I know that's an A. So I know all the notes. I know all the notes at least on the E and the B string, right? And there are some holes here. I don't know the notes, but actually I don't need to know the notes. I just need to know the notes that are important for me to remember lines. So for this line, it's very important that I know it starts on the 5th of a minor chord. So if it starts on A minor, if I want to play it on A minor, I have to start on an E, which is here. And now I know I'm on D minor, so I can play something D minorish to C. So then I would take a backing track and just practice this line at that spot. First just the way it is, and then maybe I would alter the line a little bit. Maybe I could come up with another ending. If you've watched my video called Starters, that's the concept I'm talking about. So I'm not going to explain it again, but watch that video. It's linked under this video. I'd make a starter out of the line and use only the beginning or use only the ending, or just play it as is, or play the line as is, but starting too late or too early to shift the harmonic rhythm, which is a very nice thing to do. There's no real rules for it. Now let me show you another line. This is a line I learned today from another guitar player on YouTube. Just randomly, it was recommended to me, and it's a line he took from Lee Morgan. It goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. No. It's a new line for me too. So if I would have to analyze this, I could say, oh, it starts Dorian mode on D minor, and then it goes to the Locrian, super Locrian scale, you know, and then it has a bluesy flavor on C. It's too much information for me to process this if I need to play this line in another song. I just want to remember the sound of the line. I'm attracted to the sound of the line because of the embellishments. These embellishments. It's a really trumpet thing to do, and it's nice. You don't often do that on guitar. So then I would practice this line too on different songs. So maybe on this song I could play it on a 2-5-1 in C, which I did now, but I could also play it on a 2-5-1 in G. And I know it starts on the root of the two chords, right? If it's in C, it starts on the D. So if I play it in G, I have to start on A, because the first chord is A minor. Yeah. Let's look at another line. This is a line by Stochelo. And this line I know for a long time, so I'm very comfortable with this line. And it's a 2-5-1 G. You can end it in different ways, but this is one of the endings. So, I mean, I don't even want to analyze what's happening here. I mean, it's... So it's kind of it's a tritone substitute. It's A flat. And then it's some chromatic enclosure to the D, and then it's diminished up. I mean, it's great. Like modal thinking is great for analysis afterwards, or for people that are really into lots of theory. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great to talk about. But if you actually have to play it, just remember the sound of this line, and you're attracted to it because of the sound, not because it belongs to a certain mode, because of the sound. So then I would just play this line too. Last line. This is a line I transcribed some time ago from one of my favorite guitar players called Pasquale Grasso. And I think he probably took this line from Bud Powell, because I know that's one of his biggest influences. You know, so it's probably not his line, but for me now it's his line. I took it from him. But when somebody else hears me play it in a completely different context, and he likes the line, he might transcribe it and say, you know, I got this line from Christian. And then, well, I got it from Pasquale. Pasquale got it from Paco, and Paco maybe got it from Thelonious Monk. Who knows? The line goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let me play one more chorus of I Can't Give You Anything But Love, and let me try to play some of these lines. And I know I will fail because they're new. And normally I would take a much slower tempo. You know what? I'm going to record a backing track in a slower tempo and then give it a try. I'll be right back. Okay, I just recorded a much slower backing track, and I'm going to give it a try and play some of these lines on I Can't Give You Anything But Love. So the end goal would be for me to incorporate these lines into my system so that they are part of my musical language. So I'm not playing a separate line, they're just part of a bigger story. Of course, in the beginning, you won't succeed at that. You'll have trouble even remembering the lines in itself, so let alone being able to connect them to your own stuff. So you'll see me struggling with it, but that's the point. I want to show you that it takes effort. It takes effort to transcribe the lines. It takes effort to figure out nice fingerings and the picking pattern. And that's another thing about it. If you learn modes, you're stuck to those positions, and maybe some of the lines are not very easy to play or handy to play in those positions. So it takes effort for me to learn the lines, to find the right positions, the fingerings, and then it takes a lot of effort to play them in a solo. So I'm gonna try it, see how I do, and here we go. Was kind of okay, of course, and sometimes I play my own stuff just to get back to a comfortable feeling, but I'm always trying to think of those lines. So that's the way I practice, and that's the only thing you have to do to become proficient at soloing. Forget about all that modal stuff or all the theory. You just got to know the chords of the song, of course, and then just find lines you are attracted to. That's a fun process. Just listen to music. And find lines, sing them, play around with them, have fun with them, and now you're actually busy with music instead of music theory, which is also nice, but not for playing. Okay, see you next time. Bye.